All right. It's been a minute, but finally another VTF podcast episode. Been looking forward to this one for a while. This is my boy, my dog, Charles Martinez.
No, it's good, guys.
Welcome to the episode, man. This is a great buddy of mine that I've known for about a year and a half, almost 2 years now. Met him at my old job. We were both working as recovery specialists for a chiropractic company. Welcome, bro.
Thank you for having me here in my own apartment.
and those of you in the audio, yeah, this is my boy, Bittersweet.
Yes, as you can tell in the background, I got some stuff kind of packed up, but I'm moving. It's my last day here, pretty much.
Big chillin'.
Yes.
All right, so the first thing I have in my notes that we definitely want to talk about is the first question I want to ask Charles is, what is your passion?
So that's a great question. Whenever we talk about passion, and we've talked about it in the past, it kind of seems like I'm passionate about a lot of things, or damn near everything.
Yeah.
And that's because I would say that my passion is life. And when I say life, it's more of like an all-encompassing thing. It's not just like I only care about my life, but everybody else's as well. Even animals, like anything that is living, you know. Being able to be passionate about just being alive and being on this earth is really what my passion is, honestly.
Yeah. We definitely talked about how every time me and you speak, it's always laughter, and it's always the thing that comes up is my life is like a movie.
Definitely.
Which is so funny because every time we say that, it ends up being like an epic story, and I'm always laughing. And when I say I'm laughing, my cheeks are hurting, I'm crying. Even like prepping for this podcast, me and him were talking on the phone yesterday, and it was brought up. I was like, here goes again. My life is like a movie, and he goes into a story, and it's always a good time to talk to him and spend time with him. But
definitely,
I was definitely looking to record this because most of our conversations are always good ones, and I definitely want to get one recorded. The first thing that I want to talk about is in life. Then I have under the life is the three things that you definitely want to talk about within that. So I have like the first bullet is the story, the second bullet is the lessons, and the third is the experiences. For when you talk about your passion, what is the point that you want to come across when you talk about the story of it?
So when I talk about, so rephrase that question one more time.
So when you talk about the story, when we talk about the topic life, like what is one point that you want to get across when you talk about the story?
Okay. So when I talk about the story of life, my biggest point, my one point that I want to get across is the fact that life is supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to make you're supposed to want to do things. That's the whole reason why we're here. And I guess my biggest thing is, like each individual, if you really think about it, the fact that you're sitting here, I'm sitting here, you're sitting there on the other side of the screen watching us, the fact that all this is going on, there's no way, in my opinion, that could be coincidence.
Yeah.
So, hopefully that kind of answers it.
Yeah, for sure.
But trying to get people to understand that if you change your perspective on life and try and understand what I mean by becoming passionate about life becomes so much better. It becomes like a movie. You know, even in the most chillest of situations, like right now. You know, like at some point when I'm hanging out with somebody in the future, I'm like, like my friend Vince. At one point we sat down, had a podcast, and it'll be like, it was like a movie. It's the first time I've ever done something like that.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So I'm really enjoying it.
And that's why I was so excited to talk about it, because it's like, man, like finally we have a conversation that others can possibly relate to. So that's something that I wanted to definitely get on tape or record as well. What is your thoughts on when someone says that life is, you're supposed to become like I guess the things that society has taught us, like you're supposed to do this in that order? What is your thoughts on that?
I love that question. My initial answer will always be the same. And I think that, in my opinion, society is bullshit. And what I mean by that, I don't want people to like get all butthurt about that, right? But what I mean by that is society has raised us the wrong way. You know, we go through school. I don't know about you guys, but I went through schooling, went through college, came out of college, and I had no idea what the hell I was doing for the first 2 years of my life after college. I mean, sure, I got a job, but still, it's like, all right, what am I really going to do after this, you know? I was never taught things that I should know. Like, they never tell you how to do your taxes. They never tell you a bunch of stuff that the government requires you to do. That's the type of stuff that society should be like teaching us. So I think society is bullshit in that manner. It's like I'm literally passionate about like society being bullshit because it's so true. Like if you really think about it, like if you think about it, society is built to only stop us from becoming the best person that we can be. And maybe you don't want to cut this out because this is a good point. This is a good point outside of something that we weren't even planning on talking about. But everything that, when I say everything, obviously there's going to be people out there like, oh, everything. But in general, everything that society has done for us is to limit us in some type of way. Unless you're in that top 1% of the country where money doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want to begin with, right? So that's why I say it's bullshit. And I don't think that anyone is really given, in America, the land of opportunity and whatever, I don't think anyone's really given a fair shot. Like, yeah, we do have opportunities more so than other countries, but we're not given fair shots, especially if you're a minority, regardless of any other race besides white. You know? But
I don't think that before I thought about this. So when like we talk about how society has told us like we're supposed to, like there's this cookie cutter way of life, and you're supposed to go through school, you're supposed to go to college, and after you graduate you're supposed to have that 6-figure job, you know what I mean? So at first when I was going through the like that route, if you will, I was like, damn, like I guess I got it. And then my senior year of college, I'm thinking, yo, I'm almost here, like I'm about to get this 6-figure job, like it's finna be rolling. I graduate, and then I get the my job that I always wanted, which was I wanted to become a personal trainer for a company, and I got my first job, and then a month in, I'm like, dude, I went to school for this, and I'm finding out how much I was getting paid, and I'm like, this wasn't supposed to happen.
Exactly. So kind of like piggybacking off of that, society definitely lays out steps, and it may not even be society, even my parents laid out a lot of steps for me. You need to do this by this age, not really like that clear, but you need to go to college, you need to have a job by this time, you should definitely start thinking about having a family by this time, like stuff like that. Everything's been kind of cookie cutter laid out. And one thing that I have really learned in life is you cannot ever expect your timeline to match anybody else's. All right, and that is something that cannot be stressed enough. There's a ton of people. First off, let me tell you this: I did not graduate with my undergraduates until I was 26 years old, maybe 27. All right. Whenever people ask me about, why did you stay in school for so long? There's definitely a lot of backstory into it, which we'll definitely get into in a little bit later about like my upbringing. But why would I not want to enjoy college when, first off, everybody I talk to that's older, they always talk about their college years, right? And so why would I not want to enjoy my college years? Why would I not maybe want to extend it an extra year or two, considering for the next 40 years after that, or however long I got to work till I die? It's all about my philosophy of truly enjoying life. So whenever people ask me about college and why I chose or why I was in school for so long, I tell them straight up, even in interviews, job interviews, have you ever seen the movie Van Wilder? All right, good. At the same point in time, I wanted to have that experience, but I made sure and handled my shit in school. Right? But I wanted to have those crazy stories. I wanted to throw those parties. I wanted to just be able to have that experience, because I knew, like, one of my main things in life is I don't want to get older and look back at my life and be like, damn, I regret not doing this. Yeah. I'd much rather regret doing something than regret not doing it, right? Because you can never go back.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a good transition too. When you talk about your purpose in life and how you're like living for the experiences and enjoying those times, what is there is something that you definitely I made sure you wanted to talk about is knowing what your purpose is, and then also being comfortable being your own individual.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit of that? Because you definitely wanted to come across like how important self-growth and being independent is.
Yeah. So knowing what your purpose is something that it falls in line with the timeline thing too, right? There's some people that find what their purpose is at a very young age that are blessed. Let's say Dr. Dre, for example, right? Everyone knows that, well, most everyone knows that homie's been scratching records since 4 years old, and he knew since then that was his calling, right? And then there's some people that don't figure it out till they're 40 or 50 years old, right? But it's all about the journey. Yeah. Okay, so finding out what your passion is, right? That's something that you cannot rush, right? And it's something that everybody in the world wants to tell you what you should do, all right? And you already know, believe it or not, you already know what you want to do, okay? But if you're anything like me, growing up, everyone tells you, no, you should do this, you should do this. Here's what I did, do this, don't do that. Oh man, like, because I'm just kind of like you, you know, I wanted to be a personal trainer. And I did it, you know. I got my CS. Like, I went ahead and tried to get all the certifications and the top stuff I could do to make myself be presented as the best personal trainer I could be. And I didn't find that fulfillment, right? And it wasn't necessarily like the fact that because I didn't want to be a personal trainer to begin with, but it was something that I fell back on because everyone else was pressuring me about doing this or making sure that you have a job that's going to have job security. And so when I was in college, another reason why it took me a while to graduate was because I didn't want to come out with a degree that I wasn't going to use. So tying that in together, like, you gotta, in my opinion, you should want to be independent. Being independent, because if you're constantly listening to what everyone's telling you, listening to what society's telling you, remember how I said it's already bullshit to begin with, but not only that, but like everyone's pre-programmed from the moment you're born. You're programmed to believe whatever your parents tell you from birth, right? So there's this crazy quote that I heard called, or I don't even know who said it, but they said that every thought that you've ever had has been thought before. All right, and that's kind of mind-blowing to think about. Then that means that, are you an original? No, it means it's kind of like unoriginal. And I hate that. I absolutely hate that. And since I absolutely hate that, I want to be, you know, an original and not conform to what society believes, right? And try and find out what my true passion is. Whenever I was trying to listen to, follow the rules that society sets or follow the timeline that my parents set for me, I felt so much anxiety, so much pressure. I had a lot of vices that I should not have had, you know, but once I started to that anxiety was just too much for me, and I really had to take a step back and analyze stuff and just stop listening to people. And my parents aren't gonna like this if they ever see this, but primarily my parents. I mean, cause like, don't get me wrong, my parents always give me great advice that I talk to you about all the time, but then like at that point, it's when you're a certain age, you have to take your life into your own hands, and you gotta stop listening to people. You have to make your own mistakes. You have to do all that type of stuff, and you can't do that unless you are an individual. And being an individual doesn't it's a lot more than I can really get across through one conversation. But if I were to try and sum it up, being an individual, in my opinion, would be, I really can't even sum it up, honestly. It's a collective, an array of things, you know. It's that if you have a group of friends that are wanting to go out and you definitely just like aren't feeling it, that's you staying home. You know, like even though everyone wants you to go out and you're that type of person, if you're that type of person that cares about having 1,000 followers on your social medias, probably care more about what people think about you than what you think about yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And that's what it means to be like an individual. You should care way more about what you want and your own goals and how you feel about yourself, rather than what Vince thinks of me, rather than what anyone thinks of me. You know, because at the end of the day, if I'm happy with myself, there's nothing you can say that's gonna piss me off, right?
I find it interesting that most people don't have that mentality. You know, because I feel like that's my mentality already. Like when someone asks me, and that has been asked me before. Someone asked me like, "Hey Vince, like, do you care what other people think about you?" And it's always no. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like I'm doing the way things I feel like at its best for me. You know what I mean? And I have nothing to prove to people. Yep. And so, but it's crazy to find out that there are people like that do care what people think and do care like what people say about me and stuff like that. Definitely. And it's just interesting.
This is something that should be said as well. It's easier said than done, by far, you know, like to not care what people say. And I can't speak for you, but like when people, if I would to say the same thing, like I don't care what people think about me.
Yeah.
However, I do care what people think about me. And it's a motivational factor. Like it's not a negative thing. If someone says something negative about me, I brush it off because I know it's not true, right? But I care about what people think about me in a positive way. I want every person that I meet to have some reason to remember me, or some reason to be like, some reason to be like, you know what, Charles was a cool dude, and that's it. You know, that's all. Like I really care whatever people think about. Other than that, like if you want to try and judge me or something like that, like first off, you can't tell me who I'm not, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you right now. You ain't going to tell me who I is.
Yeah, for real,
though. I definitely want to transition into how we got close. And I even already mentioned that we've only known each other for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. And it's crazy how close we've gotten recently. And it all started from like him hitting me up, and he's originally from San Antonio. So let's transition and talk about like your upbringing. You were born in San Antonio, and I'm gonna let you take it from there.
Yeah. So this is honestly like where I start to say my life's like a movie. You're gonna believe it, all right? So I was 6 years old when I was first adopted. All right. But prior to that, we gotta start at the very beginning. My biological mother and father, they were both drug addicts, drug dealers, stuff like that. In and out of prison multiple times. While my mother was actually pregnant with me, she was doing cocaine, and she did quite a bit that the doctors actually said that I should have been a stillbirth coming out. And this also ties back into finding your passion and believing that you're here for a reason, you know? But the fact that like from the get-go, like I should have been a stillbirth, and I came out, you know, premature, but I came out, still made it. And then after that, even though I was still premature and had everything stacked against me, I was in the best situation for the first 6 years of my life. I was left in an apartment for most of the days with my other half brothers, while my parents went out and did who knows what, you know? So during that entire first 6 years, I was in and out of foster homes, back with my parents, very, very unstable. But during that time, no one ever took the time to educate me in any sense of the means. All right? You can pick up speaking a language without even having to be educated on it, because this is something that your brain just will automatically do. But stuff like reading, writing, I had no idea. Of course, a 6-year-old may not know how to do that. But when I say that I was extremely neglected as a child, if you were to have asked me what my parents' name was, I would have said Mom and Dad. And I would have believed that their names were Mom and Dad, not that they had real names, you know? And I, like, if you were to ask where do I live, I'd say at home. Like, I didn't know, like, you had an address. Like, I didn't know, like, I didn't know anything. I absolutely did not know anything. But anyways, so let's fast forward back to me being 6 years old. My parents go to jail And finally, a family wants to adopt me. Well, this lady that I was in foster care with. I called her Grandma Mary. She was obviously older. That's why I called her Grandma, right?
Yeah.
But they had already started kind of like the paperwork for her to adopt me. And one night, when I had woken up in the middle of the night, and for some reason, I don't even know why, but I wanted a glass of milk. And of course, it's very vivid memory because it's a very powerful one, right? But I wanted a glass of milk. And I don't know why, but I went to Grandma Mary's bed and asked her to get it for me. So I walked over to her bed, shook her. Hey, Grandma Mary, can you give me some milk? No response. Kept on shaking her. No response. So I just knew then and there, like, all right, like, for some reason, I knew to call 911.
Yeah.
I call 911. Ambulance comes, and they put me and the other foster kids in the backyard and, like, shut the blinds. Turns out that Grandma Mary had actually passed away that night. And so that, in a sense, is very, very sad. But at the same time, that's kind of like, and this is another conversation, God, right? Like, that's God and religion is a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But that's God looking out for me, right?
Yeah.
Because of the fact that after that, the Martinezes, I'm adopted, I'm a Martinez now, but the Martinezes, they had the opportunity to meet me, all right? And the Martinez, they are a military family. So whenever I met them, the very first day that I met them, I walked into their house, and I didn't even know what a dog was. I didn't know what animals were. Like, that's how dumb I was. I was dumb as fuck. I don't even know if I could say that. But for real, and I walked down, there was a one-story house, and down the hall was this big German Shepherd. And next thing you know, like, and I'd never ever really experienced love either. This German Shepherd starts running at me, and I freak out. Not like scream or nothing, but like inside, I'm like, freeze.
Yeah.
And once it really starts taking off, I just turn and book it. And everyone in the background is just yelling like, "Oh, don't freak out, just relax. She's really friendly."
Yeah.
And I just drop on the ground because I'm scared and like curl up into a ball.
Yeah.
And she just comes over on top of me and just starts licking my face.
Yeah.
And it was like the most terrifying but coolest experience too, because it was like the first time that I was shown like love, in my opinion, that I could remember. Yeah. And it was from a dog.
Wow.
So if you ever, I mean, you met my dog, but like if you ever meet me or meet my dog, you would say that after that experience, I maybe had a good maybe a month with the Martinezes, and them being in the military family, they had got orders to get stationed in Hawaii, and they came to me, and they were like, "Hey, Charlie," because that's my birth name is Charlie. They're like, "Hey, Charlie, curious, we were wondering if you wanted to go to Hawaii with us." And they explained to me what Hawaii was like, and of course, being a 6-year-old boy, I was like, hell yeah, I want to go to Hawaii. Yeah. Who does not want to go to Hawaii, right? So we went to Hawaii, maybe 2 weeks in Hawaii, because I thought we were just there for like a trip or a vacation.
It felt like a vacation?
It's the first time I've ever really been out of anywhere to really begin with, right? And so it was a blast. The first 2 weeks in, I asked them at the time, I didn't know they were going to be my parents, but I was like, "Hey, when do you guys take me back to the foster home?" And they had told me, like, "No, we're actually going to go change your name tomorrow to be a Martinez if you want to be a Martinez." And honestly, like...
what was your initial reaction when they asked
So
you?
my initial reaction was, I didn't know what was going on, So, like, I still didn't...
You didn't know what that meant?
I didn't know what that meant. And so I was just like, okay. And like, yeah, you can... And it's funny because I always tell them that they tricked me into adopting me. Because they stole me to Hawaii and they adopted me in Hawaii. But they were also like, the real selling factor was like, you can change your name to anything you want in the world. As a 6-year-old boy, like, that's amazing, right? Yeah. And I couldn't think of anything. Isn't that hilarious? Yeah. Yeah, it was like my selling factor and I couldn't think of shit. But anyways, yeah, so we go to the court, change my name. I spend 4 years. I end up spending 4 years in Hawaii. It was absolutely awesome. But during that 4 years, there was a lot of hard nights. And honestly, to put it this way, I don't remember any easy nights. And by easy nights, what I mean is every single night my parents were up, teaching me how to read, teaching me how to write, teaching me how to, the concept, any simple concept that you could imagine that you would not think about, they would have to teach me.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't even learn how to ride a bike till I was probably like 12 years old.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was just too scared.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of hard days, and because of that, because I wasn't a slow learner, but because I basically for the first 6 years of my life, no one ever was like, "Hey, you need to
just learn.
Hey, let me sit you down and read you a book." Okay, well now I want to read a book. Like I never had stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand like why I need to read, why I need to write,
why I need
like, bro, I haven't done shit for my entire life. Why do I need to do anything, right?
Yeah.
And so I fought it, and sure enough, since I fought it and I did not try at all, I ended up getting put in special ed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in special education from 6 years old till 6th grade. So I don't know ages like that, but whatever 6th grade is, or 5th grade, through 5th grade. And that was honestly a very, very tough time, because at the same time, like, that I'm growing up and like finally learning, because I also got adopted into a family that had another boy that was the same age as me, and kid you not, this kid is like the fucking smartest kid on the planet, but at the same time the dumbest motherfucker you could ever be. And I'm sorry to talk about him, but he'll know exactly what I'm talking about if he sees this. He has zero common sense, alright? Yeah. But he's book smart. He's anything growing up, this dude was a superstar at, right? Mm-hmm. So me being horrible at everything, and him being a superstar at everything, made me not want to try even more, right?
Yeah.
So of course, like, I was deemed retarded, and I'm sorry, I know that's not the technical term these days, but that's what I was branded.
Yeah.
And kids would call me that, and so this whole time that I'm struggling to try and understand of what life is and why I need to understand that this stuff I'm going to use for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. So at 6 years old, I'm already getting these life lessons, right? Yeah. That I need to try and understand, like, like, this is life, right? So at a very young age, I was very exposed to, like, you need to understand, like, this is life.
Yeah.
But really, like, because I was so far behind, I was actually projecting myself a lot further than people, because I had to catch up really, really fast. But anyways, come 6th grade, or going into 6th grade, we ended up moving. During that entire time, I was the worst kid. I'm just going to say that. When I was the worst kid, I almost got expelled 5th grade. The only reason why I didn't get expelled is because there was like 2 weeks left of the school year. But then we ended up moving to Minnesota, Hawaii to Minnesota. Yay, right? And during that trip, when we got to Minnesota, I had sat my parents down and I told them, hey, if this is where we're going to be throughout my high school career or whatever, then I don't want to be in special education. I don't want to start off being labeled as retarded, because that's what kids will call me. And then I'll never be able to live that down, Even if I do come out of special education, people always remember I was in special ed in 6th grade, because that's when I'm trying to make friends.
Yeah.
And so for me to be able to sit there and tell them that, and them to actually hear that, they were kind of like shocked, like, oh, well, maybe he's not as dumb as we thought he was. They never thought I was dumb, but
didn't understand that what it was.
Well, they didn't understand that the way my brain thought. They thought, like, I'm a very, very street smart person. Like, I think and analyze things through. But when it comes to, like, I didn't learn how to read. Okay, I learned how to read, but I didn't truly learn how to read until I was like 14 years old. And what I mean by that is, when I was reading up until 14 years old, I could read the words but not remember the words, because why do I need to remember the words? Why do I need to put these words into sentences? No, I would read, the dog walked down the street. Okay, so what'd you just read? I don't remember, So it took me until like 14 to understand, like, so that's why I failed like everything. I literally failed kindergarten, guys. Like, it was horrible. So 6th grade came around and they took me out, put me in extra classes, or they put me in normal classes, but of course, like, after school I would stay and get a little bit of extra help. And everything was fine. I caught right back up, but I still didn't understand the whole concept of school, you know, and that's because society doesn't ever make the importance of what school is.
Yeah.
If you watch movies, right, specifically, damn it, I can't remember. I want to say Old School, but it's not Old School. Dazed and Confused, right?
Yeah.
Watch that movie if you guys have not seen that. But what they want to make high school seem like is like you're just supposed to go there and have fun with all your friends. Yeah. It's supposed to be the time of your life. High school is the pinnacle, right?
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to peak in high school, right? So with school, like school wasn't ever, whenever, the reason why I never ever really cared about school and never took it seriously was because of the fact that like whenever I looked at it and analyzed it, I was like, all right, what the fuck do I need to learn what a math parabola is? You know, like why do I need to know a squared plus b squared equals c squared? I have never used that in my life. Yeah. You know, besides on a test in math and whatever grade, you know? And why do I need to know math so good without a calculator when I'm always going to have a calculator on me? You know, like stuff like that. Like school just didn't make any sense to me, so why should I care? And society makes school seem like, well, I saw it that way, but then at the same time, society makes it seem like you're supposed to care about what clique you're in. You know, having fun in school and stuff like that. And so that's what I was more about, like just trying to have fun, making as many friends as possible, everybody knowing who I am. I don't care about being popular, but meeting as many people as I could, right? And so that really came to bite me in the ass, right? Whenever it came time to take my Minnesota, I don't know if it's your ACT or SATs, whatever the opposite is down here in Texas, but whenever it came time to take that test, given the fact that like I just hated taking tests, hated reading, and it's a 3 or 4 hour test or an all day test, bro, I did horrible. I did so bad that when I applied to schools, every school rejected me, right? Even UTSA, and he's trying not to laugh, but bro, laugh it up, bro. And this is
because when you told me they have a 98%.
Yeah, bro, like this school, UTSA at the time had a 98% acceptance rate. They let everybody and their mamas in. All right, they bring up your you know, dead grandmother or great grandfather and let them in before they let me in. All right, they let everybody in. And they said, sorry, you're too dumb. So that was kind of like a smack in the face, man. Because, like, after all this, my parents have been telling me how important it is. Right? Now, to get to what I really want to do and be able to live my life, I can't even go to school. So I got to work that gas station job that I never wanted to work. And I never worked at a gas station. Right? But that was my mentality at the time. So I went to community college because I was the only. If you pay, you'll get in, right? They'll take your money. So I went to community college, and that's when I really started to actually excel in school because I already fucked up in high school and realized, oh shit, now I can't do anything. So I had to do my 2 years in community college before I can go to whatever 4-year university that I wanted to go to. But that's where I really actually started to learn more about life, right? And college is amazing because, yes, you go to college and you learn about different topics and stuff like that, but college really teaches you so much about life if you're willing to open your eyes, all right? Everything in life teaches you about life, all right? There is always a learning situation or something that you can take from in every situation that you're in, whether it be good or bad, you know? But throughout college, for people that don't know me, that is when I started to smoke weed, right? Because, but as a child, you know, like since society tried to, obviously I was already labeled as retarded and stuff like that, and I had was a slow learner. So what do they do for slow learners and people that have too much energy? They put you on Adderall, they put you on Ritalin, they put you on all that other stuff because that's what society tells you to do. And so I was on that stuff for years and years and years, and it only made me depressed and made me not want to do school even more during high school. Oh man, I would tell my parents and they wouldn't believe me. We don't need to get into that, right? But come college, when I'm starting to be more on my own, right? Everybody has their own vices, right? And in college, I was really I didn't want to have a vice that was going to allow me to waste so much of my time and my potential to enjoy life, enjoy college, and meet people, have my potential for experiences limited.
Yeah.
Right? And so, of course, in college, a typical thing that a college person would do, smoke a little bit of the ganja. Okay? You know? So I was introduced to some ganja. All right. Probably my sophomore year. Actually, it was over the freshman year summer. That story was amazing. But anyways, but I decided to use that as my vice, right? Because it's something that primarily everybody does in college. Everybody smokes weed, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have to do it by myself. I'd actually be out doing stuff. But at the same time, like, so at first, like, if anyone that smokes weed, they know in the very beginning when you smoke weed, you're just mind blitzed, right? Can't really handle your shit. And so during that time, like, I absolutely hated the fact that I couldn't handle it, but, like, I just couldn't, like, handle it the way that I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do things. And so, like, I wanted to change my vice into more of a positive thing, but still have that vice because I didn't want to have more negative addiction, right?
Yeah.
And so what I started doing was, started smoking before class, started smoking before I was studying. Everything that, like, a productive person should be doing to better their lives, I would just smoke before I had to do it. Because if you're a stoner, or ever were a stoner, you would say, smoking makes everything better. And that's true, right? It does. I mean, I'm not going to lie about it. I honestly cannot think of one thing that smoking would not make better. But since that was the mentality and everybody said that, I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll go to class high. The first time I went to class high, it was too much. I'm not gonna lie. Second time I went to class high, still too much. Maybe the third time or fourth time, a teacher said something. I don't even remember what they said.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, what? An amoeba does what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like, oh, like that, like, blew my mind. Like, something that I did not know.
Yeah, and you're like processing and trying to put in your memory.
Yes, and like having, but so I knew that I had learned something, but later on when I analyzed that I had learned something, it became so cool to me. Yeah, it was like, oh shit, like I was high and I learned something and I remember it. Like, like that's awesome. So I would, study high. Go to class high. I played sports high. I played college sports high. Did everything. No one ever knew, right? And I made the honor roll or the dean's list. Did everything, right? Like no one ever knew. So much so that when I finally told my parents, my dad told me he would have bet the deed on the house and everything that he owns that I never did any drugs. Yeah. But kind of like when I wanna say to the audience is everyone has vices out there, whether it's alcohol, porn, weed, other drugs, it could be anything out there. But and you shouldn't feel bad about having a vice, right? But you should try, knowing that everyone has a vice and knowing that you're gonna do something that you necessarily don't want people to know about. You should try and make that thing productive for you, make it a positive thing in your life, right? And that's what I did, and it really helped me out. And honestly, I don't want to sound like a stoner, but or like a druggie or anything like that, because I'm definitely not. But smoking weed really made me introspect on myself, really made me become more independent, really made me overanalyze, and not overanalyze because that sounds like a bad word, but adequately analyze myself to the core. Right? It made me really think the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And I will be the first person to share the ugliest of myself with you because it's a personal thing, you know what I'm saying? And you're gonna feel more connected to me afterwards, right? But by me doing that, I feel so much better about myself because I'm okay with it. And I'm okay with sharing it because it shouldn't bother me. It's in the past, you know? But you gotta constantly keep on moving forward and trying to find advice that's going to help you move forward. Yeah. So even, for example, we were talking about your vice.
Yeah.
And one of Vince's vice, I don't know all of his, but he was talking about his biggest vice is snacking.
Yeah.
You don't know Vince. Vince is a snacker.
Yes.
All right. But for example, I was telling him, like, all right, your vice is snacking.
Yeah.
And you're in the fitness industry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Your vice is already perfect for the same model that I have, right?
Yeah.
All you have to do is make your vice dive into creating the foods that you like, that taste good but are healthy for you.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Now, if you have something like a porn addiction, I can't help you out with that. I don't have any advice for that.
You got nothing for
that. I got nothing.
You're on your own,
right?
bro.
You're on your own. You have to cut that shit out. Unless your girl or your dude's cool with it, but like really, like, try and replace it with something else. Try and replace it with a different vice, because that is such a waste of time. So kind of really sit there and analyze yourself. Think about where you want to be tomorrow, next month, a year from now. And something that I can't stress enough is what Vince has right here. All right?
Yeah.
Getting yourself a journal. All right? There's so many times where someone says something, or even your phone.
Yeah.
My eldest brother, whenever I had first moved down to Texas after graduating high school, there's always like certain things that people say that stick with me. And he had asked me like how productive I was, right? And of course, being not wanting to like, making myself want to sound good essentially, right? I was like, oh, I'm pretty damn productive, and then he was like, whoa, do you have a planner? I was like, planner? Gay? Like, I don't need no planner. And when I say that, it's not offensive. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be offending anyone.
Yeah.
I have tons of gay friends.
Yeah.
Males, females, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not. Don't take it as a big deal.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why do I need a planner? Like that makes no sense. And he's like, yeah, man, get a planner, write down your goals, stuff like that. And I kid you not, I completely ignored his advice. Right?
Yeah.
This dude, my oldest brother Tomas, he stopped giving me, he used to always give me like some of the coolest gifts for my birthday or Christmas or whatever, right? He stopped giving me those cool gifts and he started giving me books. And I don't know, I used to think at the time, like, I wonder if he's giving me this shit as a joke because he knows I'm not going to read it.
Yeah.
And they're all like motivational, like 5 laws of invaluable growth and stuff like that. Like they're all stuff to help you grow.
Yeah.
And like in my head, I'm like, yo, like you're wasting your time. Why are you giving me this stuff, right? And sure enough, like maybe a year goes by, and homie was like, yo, Charlie, because my family calls me Charlie. Like, hey Charlie, did you ever open up that one book I gave you? And I told him, yeah. Like months prior to a year later, I told him, yeah, I read the book. And so like a year later, he'd asked me again. And I was like, yeah, I read the book. He's like, oh, did you see anything in there? And I was like, no, like, what you talking about? He's like, oh, there was a check in there. And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And so I went home that night, and I opened it up, and there was like a $250 check in there, expired.
Oh.
Because I didn't read the goddamn book.
Yeah.
Yes, bro. And so, like, because I was pissed off, and so there's two things that I could have done, right? And this is where you really have to look at yourself, right? And calm down and introspect. 2 things I could have done. I could have been pissed off, been like, well, man, fuck this. Like, I'm not going to read another book. Like, I'm just going to open up all these other books, see if there's money in there, and take it out, right? But no, like, I was like, you know what? Like, the fact that this check, because you didn't have to put that amount of money in there, right? But the fact that I got screwed over like that, I could have completely let it go. But I look at it as a life lesson, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of like, if you believe in karma, this is kind of like a karma thing. Because of the fact that I did not take advice from someone that only wants to see me do good and read a book, right? Something that I could just do a page a day. Like, not even anything crazy, a chapter a day or something, right? And I chose to ignore his advice, and his advice was purely just to help me out without him expecting anything in return.
Yeah.
I missed out on not only the great advice, but I missed out on $250.
Yeah.
So what I did was I read that book, and then I went through all other books as I got the money, right? But of course I read the other books incrementally, or I've been trying to. But you got to kind of like really look at the way that you react to situations and try to analyze, like, all right, obviously our animal instinct is to be an animal, right? Like be mad, be upset, but our human nature, so not animal instinct, our human nature is to be calm, be loving, be friendly, be optimistic. That is so huge, man. I cannot tell you how many times there's been so many bad situations in my life. And I will tell you right now, if I were to die today, I would absolutely live my life over 100% the same exact way. Well, maybe one change, right? But I would live it 99.9%, you know, the exact same. Well, the important of being optimistic and being able to look at a situation, regardless of whether it's bad or good, and find the good in it, you know? I mean, even if it's good, I mean, you should definitely find the good, right? But bad situations, like, why dwell on the bad, you know? Dwelling on the bad and only thinking about the bad and living in the past makes you never progress and move forward, you know? You really need to try and be optimistic and not be so quick to act. There's this quote that I had posted on Facebook years ago, and it had just popped up in my newsfeed the other day, and I think it's by, I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure it's by, I didn't write down who it was by, but I'm pretty sure it's by Zig Ziglar. He's the Minnesota Vikings team owner or something like that, right? And he said, all your problems in this world are caused by two reasons. We act without thinking, or we think without acting. Right? And when I read that, I was like, holy shit. That is literally everything you could ever want in a motivational quote ever, right? It's all encompassing without saying too much, and it's literally one or two lines, right? But what that really means is, like, if we ever have a problem, like, it's either because we did act without thinking, or we thought and never just acted, right? And that's a huge thing. That was probably my biggest problem growing up, was overthinking without acting, or just thinking without acting. That was my biggest problem. And now, like, if someone ever invites me somewhere, or someone ever, like, wants to do anything, I don't even think about it. Yes, I'm down. Am I free? All right, we got time? All right, I'm down. Let's go. Right? I don't care what it is. I don't care if we're to go see a ballet concert. Like, that's not something that I'm into. But at the same point in time, like, why am I going to neglect myself that experience in life? Like, I may not, who knows, I may think that that's cool. You know? So, you really got to be optimistic and not hinder yourself, because, I mean, what are you doing on this earth? You know?
I think that's what sways me towards you too, man. The positivity, the optimism that you have, definitely. I've always been big on surrounding yourself with positive people and positive or minded people and like-minded people, because what you do motivates me, and in return what I do motivates you, you know what I mean? And not only that, but your hustle mentality definitely is radiating too. You know what I'm saying? And the hustle mentality, quote unquote, is something I wanted to talk about with you too, because it's like the hustle from what motivates me from you is the fact that your drive to go to chiropractic school, like, that's your next thing. So I'm like, oh, like, Charles is doing this, like I know he's bettering himself, let me better myself in what I'm doing too. But in that same flip of a coin, it's not the fact that saying I need to go to get my doctorate's degree. It's more so like what my focuses are, and take them more seriously.
Be independent and an individual.
Exactly.
But that's a great. I'm glad you brought that up, because you started off with a great thing that we definitely need to talk about. And I know I say this a lot, but stuff that I can't stress enough is who you keep in your company, right? When I first, I'm gonna revert back to when I first, started smoking pot. I don't smoke now, but whenever I first did, in my first early years in college, right? The dude that introduced it to me was, I think I was 21.
Yeah.
You don't know because I didn't know you, but I was maybe like 21 or 20 at the time, and the dude that introduced it to me was 25 or 26, right?
Yeah.
He had worked at Lifetime Fitness with me, and he pretty much like just wasn't. That was it, right?
Yeah.
He worked at Lifetime Fitness. That was it.
Yeah.
And at first I kind of like idolized him, like. Like this dude's so cool. He's got his own apartment. He smokes bud. He can have chicks over whenever he wants.
Yeah.
I was like, that's badass, right? So I hung out with him a lot, right? And the more that I hung out with him, the more I realized I was like, man, like this dude in the next 3 years is gonna be doing the same shit.
Yeah.
Right? Do I want to be doing this in the next 3 years? Nah, I don't want to be doing this in the next 3 years. So slowly, incrementally, I stopped hanging out with him. In the respect of, smoking, because we weren't doing anything productive, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, I wanted to be productive while I had that negative vice still.
Yeah.
And so I'd only hang out with him if we were gonna go do productive things while we're smoking, such as sports or working out, right?
Yeah.
But sure enough, I cut my ties with him and decided that. I needed to go back to school. I took 2 years off of school, but I needed to go back to school and, kind of cut ties with him. And throughout, he was the very first person that after I cut ties with, I didn't even realize this at the time because I didn't realize what I was doing. But after I cut ties with him, I felt so much better about myself. And this has nothing to do about him as a person.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he didn't make me feel bad about myself or anything like that. But it was the fact that, hold on one sec. It was the fact that I was around him all the time, and I saw that, and I could see that he wasn't going anywhere, and I could see myself falling into that routine of his.
Yeah.
And not being around him, not seeing myself fall into his routine, and being comfortable with something like that, I needed that. I needed to be away from that. So I started to hang out with nerds, right?
Yeah.
Quote unquote nerds, right? Turns out nerds are the coolest fucking people you can ever be friends with. They know more than you could
a lot of shit about a lot of shit.
A lot of shit about anything that you could ever want to know, right? But I started hanging out with those people, and come to find out they like to drink and party just as much as everybody else, right? But you're also learning. You're also hanging out with people that see themselves as being
something else,
successful.
Yeah.
And earlier you brought up, I'm going to chiropractic school. You want to do your whole fitness thing, and it's not a comparison, a comparative thing. It's all about what we each define as an individual and being independent. What we define ourselves as being successful, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I try and put myself around people that only see themselves as wanting to be successful.
Yeah.
And even if they are, and I really try to put myself around people that are successful, but are not content with being that successful. That don't believe that they're successful.
They're not satisfied
enough.
yet. Yeah.
And that's the better way of putting it. I'm glad you put it that way. That they're not satisfied, because when you talk about being successful, everybody's definition of success is different, right? But success, in my opinion, you should never ever be able to obtain success, right? If you obtain success, you're at a finish line. Where's the ceiling, right?
Yeah.
You're limiting your potential of life. So the fact that I want to put myself around, more importantly, people that aren't satisfied with how successful they are and just continue to want to be better. Not for the fact of, hey, look at how successful I am.
Yeah.
I got a Bugatti or whatever, right? No.
Yeah.
But because they want to make the most out of their lives, those are people that I try to put myself around.
Yeah.
And their attitude and their personality rubs off on me, right? And as soon as I'm around, around someone that doesn't have that same mentality, even our conversations are much shorter, because I just don't want to, they're cool, don't get me wrong, but I know that in the long run, you and I aren't going to be that good of friends.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I think this is a great transition into closing. How you talk. I think one of my questions all to my guests is, what is one thing that you would like to tell the viewers, or some advice or a mental drill that you would like to tell the others, or tell the viewers? And I think this is one of the things that's very important to you, is the difference between confidence, humbleness, and cockiness.
Yes. So there's two things that we're definitely get to that, but I want to say the other thing too real quickly. It's just gonna be short. There's always that, everybody wants to shoot for the reward, that end game, right?
Yeah.
And all they care about is, like, for example, me, I don't care about this. Obviously, I do care about it, but it's not my main focus. But someone that's going to chiropractic school, what they care about is that end game, being a doctor, right? But it's not about the reward, dude. It's about and I actually texted him this. It's about the journey, The journey is the true reward. Being able to take advantage of as many opportunities as you can to get to where you want to be is only going to further, actually, your journey. But make that experience so much better for you.
For sure.
And then the thing between confidence, cockiness, and humbleness. Everybody knows what cockiness looks, sounds like, feels like. All of the above, right? Kind of rubs you the wrong way, right? But for people that have a certain mentality, kind of like my own, and even this statement alone sounds cocky, right? But people that have a certain mentality, like my own, it is a very humbled mentality. We are very confident in our in believing in ourselves, right? It's a confidence thing. We exude confidence. It's a charismatic type of persona that we give off. And that, for someone that does not know me, or a lot of people that don't personally know me,
it could perceive it.
It's that I get it all the time, that, like, I don't get it all the time, but, like, people that don't know me will think that I'm cocky. Right? And then people that do know me, they're like, man, like, you're really, really confident in yourself. And it's like, thank you. I appreciate that, because I try to be confident in myself and who I am. But at the same token, when people don't know me and I'm talking about myself in a confident way, and I'm not trying to boast about it, then it comes off as being confident, or being cocky. So you can be humbled, you can be confident, you can be both humbled and confident, and you can be cocky. All right? The difference between being humbled and being confident. The difference between being humbled and being confident. Well, let's just separate those two first. A confident person would not give a shit about anybody else's opinion. All right? They are so confident in themselves that I don't care what you think. Not even their loved ones. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, you know what? All me, baby. All me, right? All me, all the time. That is a very confident person, and that comes off as cockiness as too, right? But cockiness is different, because you're definitely more, you rub people the wrong way. You're more aggressive with it, right? And it comes off the wrong way. Confidence doesn't necessarily come off the wrong way, but people know, like, oh man, he's very, very into himself, right? Humbleness is where you're not into yourself, right? You are into yourself, but you understand that you yourself does not matter in the grand scheme of things, right? So you're able to take a compliment, like, hey, like today, for example, I know my hair's up right now, but I never wear my hair down. And today at work, like, I wore my hair down, and everyone was like, oh my god, your hair is so, whatever, right? And I was just like, hey, like, thank you, I appreciate it. And I got, like, the vibe that someone thought that I was like trying to, like, okay, I wanted all the attention on me. And I was like, yo, like, no, like, this isn't, like, I appreciate it. Like, thank you for the compliment. However, like, I literally told him this. I was like, however, like, I just literally just combed the hair. I really did not care. Like, I'm not trying to do this for attention or anything like that. I don't care what people think about my hair. That is why it is long in the first freaking place, and it's in a bun every single day. But to combine the two is when
this is Sky.
Hold up. Hold on one second. We're gonna have to pause this. Not pause it, but we're gonna have to get her in on this.
Yeah.
Say hi. Tell him you're a human. Can you speak? Speak. Oh. Okay, we're gonna put this down. She might eat it. But anyways, when you combine the confidence and humbleness, that is when you can really truly meet your true potential, right? Because when you're able to understand that it's not about you, and this is another key point too. When you're able to be confident in yourself and be humble, you don't expect things in return, right? If you're just a confident person, borderline cockiness, you're expecting stuff from her back because you're so confident you deserve something for your time, for your effort, right? A humbled confident person would not expect something for their time or effort in that regard, right? And they would be able to be like, hey, you know what? For example, in past relationships, I've had so much trouble with this. When I see someone, regardless, male, female, I don't care, it could be a freaking alien. If they're wearing a shirt or cool shoes that I like, I don't care. Hey, I like your shirt. I like your shoes, right? And it's got me in trouble with girlfriends like crazy. And it's not even like specifically girls, because I will say it to dudes just as much as girls, you know, like, but cause that's like a humble confidence thing. Like, I'm confident enough in myself to let someone else know that I like their stuff to hopefully give them a little bit more confidence, right? But for an outside perspective, someone that doesn't know that, doesn't know me, doesn't know the way that I carry myself, they see that as like flirtatious, because you're so humbly nice, so humbly confident in who you are, and you have that demeanor of just being a nice person, that they think that you're wanting more than you're wanting, when truly you're not wanting anything but to make a genuine connection with every individual that you meet, thus having and enjoying your life as passionately as you can. Bam.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Shaka for the kind, dog.
Do you want any last words for the viewers, or any one token that you want to go say before you go, or any shout outs?
No, I really don't have any shout outs. Like I said, like, the only shout out I got is Vince, obviously. Shout out Vince Transit. I really don't. The only people I would love to shout out is obviously my family, alright? I know that this podcast was done last second. And, it's very authentic, there should be some cuts, hopefully. But, honestly, like, if you guys kind of felt my vibe, the only people that I can really, and this is that whole humbleness thing, right? Like, yes, that is my vibe that I give off. However, everything that like is me, I attribute to my family, people that I've met throughout my life. So I definitely love to shout out my parents, my mother and father, and my eldest brother Tomas. Yes, Tomas Martinez III. If you ain't know about him, look him up.
Follow him, because he very opened my eyes too. And then this is one of the things that Charles was like, you're gonna hate me and love me at the same time. My brother has his own podcast and his own studio and everything. And
he's
then
a motivational speaker.
When I press his Instagram, it's right up my alley of like the people and the type of follow people that I like to actually follow. So definitely shout out to him, man.
And so side note, if you do want to follow Tomas Martinez III on Facebook, that's what it is. Pretty sure it's the same on Instagram, all the social media platforms. However, by all means, the dude is literally the nicest. I hate him so much. I hope he sees this. He is like the nicest guy in the world. I always tell my siblings and like my friends, like, once you meet him, like, for me, like, I love him so much, but at the same time, it's like, bro, you're doing too much. How am I ever supposed to catch up to you? You know? Like, he's just amazing, all right? So it don't matter if you don't know him, and he is, definitely kind of a busy guy. But if you reach out to him and you send him a message, I promise you, he will reach out back to you. And if you're looking more like business advice, not necessarily specific about business advice, but just like, hey, some books to read, stuff like that. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to help you out. And I'm sure whenever we have another podcast, I'll show you some of the books that he gave me to read, and we'll talk more about like kind of like motivational stuff. But,
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, well, shout out to God or Ja.
BGOD.
Ja feels, you know. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time. Peace.